this is probably our third or fourth webinar that we've done on things related to the COVID situation and reopening. And each of these, we've had different presenters on from different industries, from local members who share their experiences with us. And they've been very valuable. And, you know, we've a little surprised right now. We've had up to 30 people involved with these. So we hope, I know with our presenters that we have today, they'll be providing some great information that I'm sure you will be able to take with you and apply to your business and considering ideas to consider as you're reopening. So what we're talking about today, what you need to know to reopen regarding your employees and HR and COVID-19. We assembled, three great presenters here. We have Jonelle Marchese, manager with Bene-Care, who we've partnered with for a number of years with our health insurance and other HR types of products and services that they have available. Janelle, thank you. Bukola Mallia from the business service specialist from the Buffalo and Erie County Workforce Development Consortium. So Buki, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And Susan McClaren, an attorney, local attorney here in East Aurora with Webster, Szanyi, LLP in McClaren office. And so Susan, thank you for being with us today.
Sure.
So what I want to do is just give each of you just a minute just to talk about yourselves quickly, your business, what you're doing, and then we'll get into general discussion and how it relates to our business members. So Janelle, you want to go first? Just take a minute to intro you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. How is it out? You said it's warm. I haven't been out since 7:30, so I'm sure I have. I'm sure I'm going to be shocked when I walk outside today. So as Gary said, my name is Jonelle Marchese. I'm with Bene-Care. I actually manage the director of all Western New York operations. Our company is actually domiciled out in Webster, New York. I run the Buffalo, Western New York area. We're a human capital management organization. I think some people may have identified us years ago as a health insurance organization. We've really evolved more into human capital management, really helping the employers manage their humans from hire to retire, and everything in between, from health insurance, individual insurances, to HR, to payroll, to Medicare, to helping the end of the road, again, retirement and all of that. So that is kind of what we do. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here.
Okay, great, thank you. Boogie, would you mind?
No, not at all. Well, good evening. Almost dinner time. Can you hear me, everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me today. My name is Buki, like Gary said, but it's usually Bukola. But if Buki's easier, please feel free to call me Buki. I am a business services specialist with Buffalo and Erie County Workforce. Really, our goal and our job is we're the local matchmaker. We're the local workforce matchmaker, and that's the way I look at it. We work really, really closely with our local businesses. Our service is free. It's funded by the state and federal. So we're not for profit. So any businesses that come to us for, it's either job placement, recruitment, maybe training funds that they may need for new hires to incumbent workers. That's basically what we do. So we're the matchmaker between job seekers and employers. And really, I'm here to talk about how we can hopefully help you as you move along in reopening.
Great, thank you. Sue?
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. And this is my first experience doing one of these kinds of programs for the Chamber. So thank you very much for thinking of me. So some fun facts. I am a partner in the law firm of Webster, Szanyi, and for 29 years, I've been practicing management side labor and employment law. And I've sat in this office right across the street, right across the driveway from Grace since 1997. So that's kind of fun. This is a satellite office of Webster, Szanyi, which is located in the Liberty Building downtown. And I guess one fact is that I was here with another East Aurora resident, Colleen O'Connell, for several years, and then she went on to other work, and so I was here with the rest of my firm downtown. But in recent times, now we've added 3 additional women attorneys, all who reside in East Aurora: Heather Deckert, Marnie Smith, and Melanie Beardsley, to our office here. So we're all really a part of the East Aurora community. So today, I think I'm sitting here a little tired today. I think we've all been living, eating, and breathing all of, even for me, trying to just get my office downtown back up and running, with people coming in and trying to comply with what seems like ever-changing requirements. And so I'm just going to talk a little bit about navigating the leave laws and being sure that you're complying with the Americans with Disabilities Act and the actions you take relative to your employees. And some things I might share, you may really be well-intentioned and run afoul of the law. So we really have to be careful as we navigate this, and it's really new territory.
Well, great. Thanks, Sue. What we'll do, and I'll mention this again, I mentioned this earlier for those of you that just joined us, we are recording this, so for future use for others who aren't with us, our membership. So, and if you have any questions, we'll have some time at the end to ask, but you can also go in the chat room, put those down. Victoria will make note of those, and as we go along, she'll bring those questions up. So, but we'll give our presenters about 10 minutes each to do their presentation and their perspective on what's going on and ways in which they can be of assistance to you. So, Janelle, what if we go back to you, okay?
Sure thing. 10 minutes. I could do this in 10 minutes.
Okay.
So can I share a screen? Do I have the ability to share a screen here by chance?
Yeah, you should. If you have an issue, let me know. I can.
It says host disabled screen sharing. You know me too well.
Okay, let's see.
Hi, Sandy.
Let's see.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay, you should be good.
All right. I can't do anything simple, guys. I apologize. So I'll try to get through as much of this as I possibly can.
Okay.
In my 10-minute slot. So again, I'm Janelle, Bene-Care. I'm going to go through some really high-level things. But you know, one of the things we want to talk about is business continuity, right? And I'm sure everybody's going to talk about that. We want to, again, plans to help them people return safely and successfully. That's basically what we're doing here. A couple of things we want to talk about and consider priorities when creating the plan, right? Because we all have to create the plan. I think you had said it from Webster. What is your first name? I'm so sorry.
It's Sue.
Sue
McClaren.
Sue said, you know, that she's trying to get her office downtown in Liberty Building kind of up and functional. That's exactly what we're doing here. So some things to consider: how to handle employees who have it or who had it, or who are vulnerable, who are family. So these are the things that you need to consider. And because I'm human resource payroll, a couple of the things we want to talk about is carefully documenting the decisions and how personnel policies are applied, and keep these files obviously secure. You need to be cognizant of employee concerns. That's a big one. I don't know if anybody's heard that yet. I'm afraid, I'm not sure. What does this mean? What are you going to do for me? And you've got to be cognizant of those. Again, including personal health information, privacy, right? So privacy is huge for employees. So you've got to be careful of that when returning. You know, where's Joe? How come Joe's not here? Joe may not be here because of whatever personal medical issues he might have. Policy provisions, such as promoting and allowing remote work. You've probably already done that. and this is something I know Sue's going to talk about, but understanding the regulatory landscape, right? The Emergency Family Medical Leave Act, Expansion Act, the American with Disabilities Act, all of that. These are the top things to consider when even starting to build your plan, if you already haven't done that. Prepare for the workforce employees return. Workplace preparation is key. Short-term plans might focus on cleaning, measures to provide appropriate supplies, PPE, sanitizer, social distancing instructions, making walkways one way. That's short-term, right? Putting cleaning supplies and wipes next to the printers is such simple things that we need to kind of figure out. Some long-term plans, modifying workspaces to accommodate the social distancing. We don't know how long this is going to last. For maintaining cleanliness of shared equipment, again, conference rooms, copiers, printers. And then again, this one's a big one. Consider developing guidelines for meeting sizes. If you've got desks that need to be rearranged, navigating these small spaces, you need to figure out, do you have an elevator? We have an elevator in our building. We have a bathroom in here, but there's public bathrooms as well in our building. What's the proper mask etiquette for your particular location and how it applies to the CDC and New York State guidelines? Oh, we don't want that slide. So review your key HR policies. Employers should consider revising. This is important. That's why it's highlighted. And anybody that knows me knows that this is one of the things I'll always talk about. Revise or modify your policies in your handbook for short-term and, quite honestly, long-term. The things you need to really work on are pay time off and leave policies. New York State also has a new PTO sick time policy that has been actually approved, hasn't really been rolled out yet, but we should start taking a look at that in conjunction with this. So take a look at your pay time off and leave policies. Take a look at your workplace accommodation policies, and take a look at all of your remote work policies and make sure that whatever you want is fully changed and documented in your handbook. I say that anytime anything changes. I think that people should take a look at their handbook every 6 months, minimally every year, to make sure that it's updated to the exact way that you want it to be updated. Any questions so far? Pretty common sense stuff. Again, from an HR perspective, communicate and keep planning. So that is important. Any modification action you take to make the work safe place or communication presents the challenges and opportunities. Transparency and decision making for your office, really successful. Consider naming sources when communicating decisions. Develop task force, again, depending on how big your office is, to help guide and return people to work. Have a phased approach to returning to work, right? You've got 20 employees. You don't say, okay, all 20 employees, you come in Monday morning at 9 a.m. Talk about a phased approach. Every day at 9:30 in the morning, I meet with my staff, and every day we talk about our phased approach coming in, whether it's half days. So just something to kind of think through. Define steps with internal factors like public health indicators and internal work conditions, like, again, staggered schedules. Establish regular communication and surveys or a designated email to allow employees to provide input and remain invested in your plan. It's about making sure our employees feel safe and keeping them as safe as possible. So we want to make sure that we keep open lines of communication associated with all of that. Really, the final slide is, if your organization, whether large or small, or even just a team of one, does not already have a continuity, which, again, raise your hand if you had a continuity and preparedness plan before this. Not many people had it because nobody ever thought we'd ever live through this. If you don't have it, get one, right? Start preparing. We don't know what's going to happen. It's a really good idea to get that done. And again, as part of your handbook. Plan for the return to healthy operations with flexible and supportive leave policies, which I think New York State is already kind of handling, and practices that educate your employees, make the work safer, and enable the future for all of our businesses to become whole again. But again, I think it's going to take some time from an HR perspective to get people much more comfortable to get to that final point. Any questions about any of the HR handbook payroll policies that I can answer?
Debbie,
Yeah.
there she is. Go ahead, Deb.
Okay. It's hard to coordinate that. Yeah, when you say we should amend our PTO, we've been talking about this. Like, we're thinking about this. We're giving all of our staff like the regular vacation. However, we're saying, jeepers, we've been out for 3 months. We need patient coverage. We're looking at giving them 2/3 of what they haven't had scheduled or taken already in a paycheck. But then we're realizing like 2 of our girls are out on pregnancy leave. So basically they're going to be out maybe 6 to 8 months this year. The accruing benefits, getting pay on top of it. What can we do? We want to be fair. We want to be generous, but we also don't want to be stupid.
So what exactly is the question? So there is a New York State policy in terms of how much time you have to give based on the size of your organization, and that starts in January. So that's something that I would actually look at in terms of whoever your HR partner is. But in terms of PTO, depending on the size of your organization and depending on the New York State law, is really kind of up to you how you want to manage that PTO accrual policy, if that's the question. For example, are you working now, and are you allowing people to take PTO currently, or are they just building it up?
Okay, so we went out in the middle of March.
Mhm.
They've all been on unemployment since then. We just called staff back, but only 2 and 3 days until we're ready to gear up. So they're still collecting unemployment. And then when we're back full time, they have been accruing PTO because I thought that's how it goes. So
Well, if they were unemployed, did you make them inactive?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then if they're inactive in your payroll software, they shouldn't be accruing PTO.
Really? I didn't know that. Okay.
If they're an inactive employee, they technically, if you've laid them off,
Yeah.
and you make them inactive in your software, they shouldn't be accruing PTO at that point.
I didn't know that. Okay, that's good to know.
Until you bring them back, now they've become an active employee, and everything starts from that point on.
Okay. That's good. Thank you.
No, not a problem. If you need any help, Gary and Victoria know how to reach me. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions for you.
Yeah, that's good.
Janelle,
Thank you.
Janelle, is there a website that people can go to if they may not have a benefits partner or somebody like you that they can, obviously they can reach out to you, but is there a state website, a better one that they can find this information on?
I'm not sure. I'm sure that if you have an HR, again, portal, that you can ask those questions via the portal. That's a huge tool if you have that available to you. Google can be your friend, or Google cannot be your friend. So you've got to be very cautious you're in the right states, counties. But I'm not sure if there's anything specific in terms of a New York State site that can give you that information. Reach out to whomever your partner is.
Okay.
Make sure that you have that information accessible to you, whomever you're using. And that's, sorry.
If I might just add something with regard to PTO, there's the New York has passed a sick leave law where employers must provide a certain amount of sick time to their employees. But vacation is not mandated, PTO, if you're just talking vacation, by any law.
Right.
And so you really dictate the terms of vacation and when people accrue it or they don't accrue it. So really that's driven by what you determine you want it to be. Unless, of course, that presumes a non-unionized environment where you're not governed by a collective bargaining agreement.
Yeah, absolutely. And that new New York State law, or sick family law, sick paid family law, is included in that PTO kind of, so you don't have to have it in conjunction with whatever your PTO policy is. It's kind of all combined into one.
Right. It's just really, if it's PTO and can be used for sick, that can count as meeting that
Right.
requirement.
And that, I think that you have to start that now to accrue for January 1, if I'm not mistaken on that. I don't have the law in front of me. So if you're not already doing it, kind of take a look at that as well.
You know, I'm going to state the obvious. I mean, what the situation that Debbie outlined that she's experiencing is probably very similar to a lot of other businesses. You know, people have been out for a long time. People are concerned about the safety of the workplace. Are they going to get sick? There may be, you know, some women may be on leave, pregnancy leave. There's so many other situations. Some people might not want to come back.
Mhm.
So it's just the whole mixture of different things that business owners have to work through.
Yeah, and that's why anybody I've ever spoken to always said, make sure whatever it is that you want to happen, make sure that it is documented appropriately in your handbook, right? So to keep it gray once everybody starts coming back is probably the worst case scenario.
Victoria?
Yeah, I have another question from Sandy, actually. She says, can you comment on what's required in bringing back furloughed employees? What if you don't wish to bring someone back and or wish to hire a new person with a different skill set?
So I know that there's a bring back to work furlough letter that we do have available that brings them back. If you choose to terminate an employee, you follow your normal termination process. Does that answer your question?
Yes, she says yes, thank
Okay.
you. Sorry, I was waiting, it's in the chat.
No, and Sandy, if you need that bring back to work furlough letter, please let me know and I can get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, well, great. Thanks, Janelle. That was
You're
good.
welcome.
Buki, would you mind jumping in here?
Oh, hold on a sec, let
There
Janelle turn the screen back over. There it goes, all right.
All right. All right, yes. Thank you, everyone. So today I would like to talk about what we do and how we can be of help to you all during this time. So our organization, we are the Workforce of Buffalo. We focus mainly in the Buffalo area, the city of Buffalo, and we do work really closely with Niagara Falls as well, but we are open to any region in the Buffalo area. What we do is we basically have the Buffalo Workforce Board that the federal government sent money into specifically for the Buffalo and Erie County workforce, for the businesses and for job seekers. And then in addition to that, we have the Workforce Development Consortium. They are the administrator arm of the web. And what they do is they're the one that we are actually under. So when we go out to businesses and businesses tell us that they need help with filling a position, maybe they're looking for funding opportunity, or if they're just looking to talk to us in general, what happens is the workforce development part of the organization, they can write a contract, and that contract usually it's free to business that decide to do business with us. And now I'm going to list things that we can help you with. And like I said, this is free of charge. We don't charge for any of our services. One of the things that we can do, many things that we can do is placement. And how does that work? Now that you're going back to work, you know, you've been closed for a while, maybe some employees does not want to come back for any reasons, or maybe some employees are saying they're still sick. Maybe you're cutting down and then you're looking for more skill sets that now fit your business. Either way, we can help you with that. And how can we help you with that? Basically, we're a phone call away. We can do a Zoom chat. We can do a visit to your site, however you feel comfortable. Of course, with following the safety measures that's put in place. And if you're just looking to fill positions, we can do many different ways. We can basically say to you to fill out a job order form. We're a sister company to Department of Labor. So we really work really well with Department of Labor. So anytime that a business tells us that they're looking for help in filling a position, it could just be one, it could be two. However, we sit fit. What we do is many things that we can do. If you're looking to fill a position, we could either say, okay, we'll send over a job order form to you where you fill it out, you send it back to us. Once you fill that form out, we send it over to Department of Labor. They now put that job in their job bank. And what they do is once that job is in their job bank, daily and weekly, they send out your job openings to all the job seekers in the Buffalo area. They get emails, they get letters, and they just keep getting it until that position is filled, until you tell us that that position can be taken down. That's one way to do it. The other way is, which it's now different because of how things are, but we used to be able to go to one of our one-stops. What our one-stops, I don't know if any of you've heard of the Buffalo Employment Training Center, ECC North and South. Those are our 3 one-stops. So in the past, and hopefully soon we'll be able to do this again. Let's say that you have maybe 3 or 4 positions to fill, and you're looking to do a customized recruitment. So what we can do is we can actually go to one of our one-stops, have you set up there in the lobby, in one of our conference room, and we get a lot of just walk-in, customers walking in, individual walking in, looking for work, looking for training opportunity, computer opportunity, of any sort of things. So what they do is they are able to see you and you're able to draw them to you and you can talk to them at that time. And also what we can do is if that doesn't work, we can go and be your recruiter for the day. Let's say you're a small company, you're saying, you know, I really need this help. I'm looking to hire a lot of people, but I have very limited manpower. We can definitely help you with that. And that's just to cover recruitment. Now I'm going to move over to what we can also do in addition to helping you. Once you hire those people, how do you train them? We have funding available. Now, there are a few different fundings we have. We have funding for hiring new people. And we also have funding that can upskill your incumbent workers. When you're looking to hire new people, you basically have to let us know in advance. We can now sign a contract once you have the individuals start working. They basically we have to draw a contract up prior to them start working. And we have to basically look at the job, the skill set that this individual has and what they would like, what you're thinking of them to train to. The new hires called OJT. I don't know, most people, if you are aware of that, is the on-the-job training fund. That's a 15%. So let's say you're bringing someone in at $15 an hour. Now let's just do even number, $10 an hour they're coming in. And we've already, started our relationship. You let us know you're looking to hire 1 or 2 people for this position and you're looking to do an OJT with us. So what do? We run a due diligence through the state, make sure your business is in a good active position, everything is good, you don't hold any tax or so forth. What we do is we run all of that and then we come into an agreement of what position you're looking to fill with our OJT funding. And we can help, either you can help us say, hey, I have the individual ready and we'll interview the individuals, or you can ask us to help you look for people to fill those positions. Either or, as long as the individual has not started working for you, they can do an OJT. So someone starts $10 an hour, we decided on a 3-month training opportunity. Basically what we do is once all of that comes through, we put contract together and a start date. At the end of the training, we will reimburse you 50% of that individual wage. So $10 an hour times how many hours 3 months equals to, divided into 2, we will reimburse you 50% of that wage at the end. And that's one training opportunity funds that we have. The other one is the incumbent training. The incumbent training is basically up to $4,000 for individuals. What they really do is, let's say you're looking to upskill a person. I'm just going to use an example of a finisher that work on maybe on a production line, or maybe work in your, maybe an admin assistant that's looking to go into HR. Anything like that sort of work. What we would do is they would come to us directly. That incumbent training, that one is mainly you put it on the employee to reach out. Basically, you're providing them with the information. They reach out to us and say, okay, I'm a finisher. I'm looking to be maybe a maintenance mechanic, and it's going to take me about 6 months to go through school. That one specifically, we have training providers that we partner with. The training providers are everyone, BOSI, CCC, the list goes on. So what we do is we partner with the training provider. As long as the training that they're looking to go through is on the training provider list, the WDC, we will pay for that. And that's up to $4,000 for your employees to go through a program that will upskill them without coming out of your pocket. So that's another training opportunity. And the last one I really want to talk about is CFA. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's a consolidated funding application that's through New York State. The CFA is really if you're looking to train a larger number of your current employees and you're looking to upskill them, as long as they're in a lower level position and you're looking to upskill them, you write the application stating those things and what position you'll be looking to put them in and what are the wages once they are trained and up and promoted. So we have 3 different ways to help with funding. We can definitely help with placement, help you with also with if an employee is just looking to upskill, but they need few maybe months of training. And another last thing is we have customized training into industries. We have manufacturing, energy, customer service, professional services, the list goes on. Those are customer service, those are customized training opportunity that are usually between, I'm gonna say no more than 3 months. Basically that one, we look for people that are looking to go into your industry and they wanna train and learn and get a certification. Basically, the benefit from that program is once you partner with us and we know your interests, you basically get the first chance to interview the graduates before any other businesses get a chance to interview them and look to hire them. So we have a few different opportunities for ways we can work together, free of charge to you. We're here. I know a lot of businesses don't even know we exist, but we do. With that being said, do you have any questions? I know I threw a lot at you. Gary and Victoria also have my information. Feel free to please email me, call me. We are still working from home. We're going back to the office next week, Monday, half day home, half day office. So please feel free to reach out. Any questions for me?
Victoria, we're there. Got to unmute yourself.
I thought I did. I guess I didn't. Okay. No, there's no questions in the chat, but maybe as we go along at the end, we'll have another opportunity. So,
Of course.
Great. Thanks, Buki. Appreciate it. Sue?
Okay. I just wanted to share with you first, in March 18th of 2020, both New York State and the federal government passed new laws responding to the COVID pandemic, providing job protected paid leave for employees affected by COVID. And in fact, we sat through many with my colleagues going through these materials because they can be, so that it's far too much to get into the particulars of those. But I wanted to share with you, we put out an alert with a great, and you can't see it here because it's too small, but with a great chart that shows you, dependent on what the situation is, what particular leave would apply to that situation, which employers have found super helpful because it's hard to keep track because, and even the smallest of employers are covered by these leave laws to different extents depending on the size of the employer. And it can range from an employee being subject to a quarantine or an isolation order, or their child being subject to a quarantine or isolation order wherein they have to take care of their child. Or it can relate to an employee who can't come to work because school is closed and or their daycare provider is unavailable, so they have to be home to care for their child. And that employee could be entitled to $200 a day to stay home and care for their child. And so it really runs the gamut, and it's almost like a little chess game you have to play to put together what leave is available for employees. So, you know, spread the word. I am happy. I don't know, Gary, the best way to do this, but I'm happy to share this alert along with the chart with anyone who wants it. Really happy to do so. And I even believe if you go on our website, websterzani.com, but I know that's hard to spell and no one can say it, but it's right up there. You can see it, websterzani.com. All of our alerts related to the various laws that were passed are up on, at least the employment related ones are up on our website. So you could also access it from there if you wish. It can be tricky, and so I think that chart is really helpful. And then when Gary and Victoria said, what do you want to talk about? I thought, oh my gosh, we've been living this every day with employers, all different kinds, from the public sector to the private sector, trying to deal with these issues. And just to parlay off some of what Janelle said, and you know, we of course come at this usually from a little bit different bent. I think Janelle is much more employee supportive, and I'm telling everybody, be careful what you do because you're going to be stuck doing it with everyone. But you know, the pandemic in this situation, I've got to tell you, all of us practitioners are having a different view of things, at least for the shorter term, that I think everyone should consider paying heed to. But I'm going to bring up something that I didn't even think I was before I get to the ADA, is something I thought about. How many of you had employees working from home remotely? And those employees, if they were hourly paid, they're non-exempt employees, right? Entitled to overtime for hours over 40 in a week at time and a half. How many of them sent you an email at 10 p.m.? Because I know in our world, we were in a time warp. It seemed like, you know, you didn't know what day it was, and you kind of just did this all day long when you were in your house, but people were maybe walking away and throwing a load of laundry in and coming back because remote working wasn't what they typically did. And we've cautioned employers, you have to be really careful when you're having your employees work remotely, that they are not working beyond their scheduled hours and outside their scheduled hours. Because if they are, and you get that email, you could be on the hook for time and a half for those hours worked in excess of 40. And so you really have to put parameters on these things with your employees when they're working remotely. But one thing we found, I think, and that'll parlay me into the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and the New York State Human Rights Law that protects employees against disability discrimination. Now, if you have 15 or more employees, you're subject to the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is the federal law. But if you have just 4 employees, you're subject to the New York State Human Rights Law, which prohibits disability discrimination. We've actually found, I think, a lot of us, whereas before employees might have some kind of disability and asked if they could work remotely because of that disability as a form of reasonable accommodation, and we were all like, absolutely not, you gotta be in the workplace, right? Well, we've actually found out when push came to shove, this remote working might work for a lot of people. And so now, and as Janelle's saying, and I think it piggybacks on these kinds of things, you know, you want to listen to your employees, you want to talk to them. Some people are afraid to come back, right? As employment lawyers, we didn't always want to know why. Because they might say, you know, we don't want to know if you have a disability unless, of course, you actually in some form, fashion, ask for a reasonable accommodation. We don't want to pry into that, right? But now we're saying we've got to talk to our employees. And maybe we're going beyond what we're required to do. Now, if somebody has a serious health condition and one of those things, although, you know, it seems to be always evolving, right? With what we're learning about COVID. But morbid obesity, diabetes, severe asthma, these kinds of things all could constitute a disability that we would be required to accommodate. And remote working, if it worked because nobody could come to the office, might actually be a form of reasonable accommodation. But what do you all, and I ask anybody to chime in, what do you think if your employee comes to you and says, well, you know what? I live with I take care of my mom and she's very vulnerable. She's 80 years old and she's a cancer survivor, you know, and has gone through treatment, and I'm really concerned I'm gonna bring it home to her. I'm scared to go back to work. And you're looking at a situation where you're phasing in because, you know, with restrictions, you're not going to be up to full speed. What are you thinking with this employee? Now, what I would tell you is the law says you have no obligation to accommodate that person. So if you want to know the strict answer to the law, you know, from a legal perspective, you could say, well, you know, we're going to provide you a safe workplace. We're providing mask sanitizers, social distancing. We're doing all the right things according to New York Forward to engage in phase 2 opening of our business. You either come back or see ya. Now, I could tell you it's a slippery slope. It's not an easy decision as to what you do, because you might be able to say, I could provide you an unpaid leave of absence for a while, and we'll have to revisit it every couple months and see what it's looking like, COVID and our workplace. And then maybe you accommodate that person. Maybe they've been a great employee. But now what are you going to do when 7 out of 10 of your employees are afraid to come back for a whole host of reasons, none of which you're required to accommodate under law, and you can't produce a workforce? Then what? I don't know, and we don't have all the answers to these questions, but what I could tell you is then maybe what you're saying.
That was not fair.
Yeah. No, but this is my answer. What I'd say is, and I think all of us kind of curmudgeon-y practitioners would used to say, no way, do not go down that path. But I think now we're saying it's a different time here. And we want to keep people for the long haul, and we could lose our entire workforce looking down the road. Like Janelle said, you got to look short-term and long-term, right? So maybe we look and see how many. I mean, I know when we reopened, we said, you know, we're going to go back. We're going back phased. We're going to have people come in and kind of reacquaint themselves with their offices because everybody left in sort of a heartbeat. And then we did say, and we talked about all of our protocols, and we actually created a policy and protocol, and people signed off that they were committed to following it. But we said to them, if anybody, and we were on a Zoom call like this with our whole office, if anybody has any concerns or issues, to please see us individually. No idea what that's going to mean. That could be medical conditions. That could be a whole host of issues. It could be in the summer, you know, my kids are home. Can I work some kind of alternate schedule? And depending on your business, you may or may not be able to accommodate that. But we're looking to see what we can do. We're making it clear. We don't have a legal obligation to do it. But so long as we can garner a workforce, we're going to try. But at a point, it may be that no one can have it because we can't pick and choose when it's not required by law. We could really get ourselves in a whole host of trouble depending on who we pick and choose. You know, do we pick the younger person versus the older person? So these are all of the kind of battles we're facing in our own minds as to how we're compassionate and how we still garner a workforce as we head back into the workplace. Also, when you're talking about setting up all your protocols and your procedures, we have to be careful because you know what? Just like we're compassionate with that person who has really pretty severe diabetes, so they're at risk. And we know it because we've been working with them for 20 years and they're our employee. Now they could work remotely and we could accommodate that, but they want to come back to the office. They can't take it at home anymore. There's a lot of people who want to go back. They want, you know, we want normal back, right? Can you make them stay home? I don't want you to get sick in our workplace. I don't want to be responsible for that. Even though I've set up all the protocols, I will never live with myself. Can you make them stay home? Nope. That's disability discrimination.
Well,
At least that's where it is now. So all of these things, we might want to encourage them, but we can't force those kinds of issues. And that's where employers are in really interesting, difficult situations right now where there's not easy right and wrong answers. Then we get into this whole idea of testing and questionnaires that we have to complete so that we can be sure people who are entering our workplace, right, at least are asymptomatic at this point with no temperature. And how are you doing that? Do you really want people lining up as they enter your workplace to take their temperature? A choice you have is you could have a certification, right? You can, there's devices, Janelle can speak to that, but you can also have employees complete a certification every day that they took their temperature at home, but you might have to provide them a thermometer if they don't have one. And if you do have employees provide certifications, you have to keep them separately in a secure location with only those with a need to know having access to those because they are deemed medical records under the ADA. A lot of employers are asking, although should they do COVID testing regularly of their employees? You can, but if you're going to do it, you need to do it across the board or at least in classes or groups of people if you're going to do those things. And that's kind of good for today, I suppose, but it's not good for tomorrow. So if you're not going to test regularly, it might not make a whole lot of sense. And then I'm going to leave you with just this last one. What do you think about the idea? And an employer faced this. They had hired an employee, and the employee had worked 3 weeks before all of this. March 16th, I think, might have been the magic day when everybody vacated their offices, right, and went remote. And so, but right upon her hire, the employer had agreed that even though she wouldn't have accrued sufficient PTO, that they would allow her, and this was before COVID hit, to go to Florida for a bachelorette party for 4 days. So it was going to be a Friday, a Friday and a Monday, and that they would allow her to take paid time off. Well, the employer had its employees working remotely. They were being fully paid, but they probably really weren't working full days. So the employer required a lot of employees to take their PTO, which you can do. You could mandate like you have to take your PTO. But this employee now, it came in May, mid-May, she came to the employer and she said, I know that, you know, we're all working, but, and of course I know it would be unpaid, but I want to go to Florida to that bachelorette party. Is that okay if I take 2 unpaid days off? What do you think? Anybody have a problem with that? Bachelorette party, beginning of May, Florida.
Yeah.
And everybody's looking that they're going back to their offices and restarting their businesses, and nobody's going to be remote. Can we say you can't go?
No.
That's the New York Legal Activities Act. She's not doing anything illegal. Can we require her to be tested upon her return to take a COVID test?
She comes back to work.
Like when she returns from vacation and if she's going to go back into the office, you could require, our position is you could require her to take a COVID test.
Or couldn't you have her self-quarantine?
You could have her self-quarantine, but what the employer was concerned with is that's when they were calling everybody back to their offices. And if you think about it, a lot of people really enjoy that remote working. They didn't have to do the commute downtown. They didn't have to pay for their parking and their gas. And, you know, when they started the day, they woke up and started the day and they were home at the end of the day. No commute home. So this seemed like a reward for someone who had been employed for a month. Well, in that situation, rather than mandate it, the employer actually talked, and that's where you get into some of that softer skill. They said, hey, look, I know this is what you were doing. What are you doing? Because, of course, we're looking to restart. And would you take a COVID test rather than you must? And you know what? She said, absolutely. And she did. She tested negative. She came back to work 2 days later. But these are the kinds of things, whether what you do and how you handle them, I think is also going to garner you loyalty, you know, when you talk about the soft issues and how you handle it rather than mandate. And so those are all the kinds of things we have to think about. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So as you're going through these processes, you're going to get confronted with these issues, and you have to really be careful that you don't step in it unintentionally. So, anybody have any questions?
So it's a lot to consider there, obviously, but I think in the beginning, one of the things that we've said, and again, it was pretty obvious that this is really a unique situation, and with the span of the presentations that we have here, each of you touched on a different, very broad area, and to being as unique as it is, I think as employers and hopefully employees would be more flexible and understanding to deal with people honestly and with patience to try and encourage, you know, that your workforce to stay together, but without creating any, you know, hardships or animosity or anything that might tear things apart. Because this is at a time you don't want it to happen anytime, but now it's really a pretty sensitive time to make sure you have people together working together. So. Just my thoughts, but those are really good points. A lot of good questions, a lot of good things to think about. Are there any other questions for Sue or Buki or for Janelle?
I have another one. This is Debbie. I've heard conflicting stories on PFL. if you have PFL, so again, I'm thinking of my two girls who are pregnant, or well, one had a baby, one is pregnant, and they were planning on taking PFL as soon as they were done with their unemployment. And when I talked to our provider, they said they wouldn't qualify for PFL because PFL is based on the prior 8 weeks salary, and because they've been on unemployment, they wouldn't be eligible. So I called my one girl today and I told her this, and her sister is an HR woman, and she said her sister had told her, but this was a while ago, that they were going to take the PFL from the 8 weeks prior to when she went on unemployment. And so, but nobody, I have talked to a lawyer and 2 HRs, and none of them mentioned that. That was the first time I heard it. So anybody got any info on that?
That's a great question. Technically, and Sue, you might have something totally different. From a technical perspective, if they're not unemployed, they are not qualified for PFL. They're not an employee, kind of that whole PTO accrual thing. But Sue,
Would you say, I'm sorry, would you say that one more time, Janelle?
I said, in my opinion, from a fact, and I haven't heard anything different, that if you're not employed, then you are not eligible for disability or paid family leave at that point. You're unemployed for the previous period.
Right. Well, they were unemployed, but again, they were furloughed with the idea of bringing them back.
So were they, did you send them a furlough letter, or did you unemploy? Did you actually physically unemploy them? They're 2 separate processes.
Okay, well, that is a sticky wicket, because I called our benefits carrier, and I was talking to them, and that was her first question was, did you terminate them? Did you this? I said, well, the terminology that our payroll company uses is terminate, but it was never our intention to ever terminate. We were planning on bringing everybody back. And she was like, oh yeah, no. Then they're terminated, and then they have to start reaccruing. I said, I'll fight to the end against that one, because I don't want my girls losing out because I didn't have complete information.
So yeah, and some of our organizations chose to furlough employees, and some of them chose to lay off and terminate them. And that was a decision that you really had to make during the beginning of this.
Yes.
It does change the whole, to your point, landscape of how do you treat them now.
Okay, so what if my payroll company, I asked this of my payroll company, and they know that my intention was to bring them back, and they said, the wording in our payroll company is terminate. And so they're like, just terminate, but you can bring them back, you can just rehire them. It is not an issue, that she told me.
That's an unfair question to ask me, so maybe Sue can answer that question. Because our payroll company, us, would not, I mean, that was kind of the whole thing when this first happened, is make your decisions on how you want to play this out for the next however long we thought that this was going to last. So I don't, Sue, do you have a legal opinion on that?
Not entirely, without seeing exactly what paperwork you have as to what could be proven, you know, from a document trail as to the employee status. Did employees, you know, when you say furlough, did you maintain benefits for employees like health insurance or anything like that in any regard?
Nobody gets health insurance through us. They get it outside of us, so that wasn't an issue.
Right.
But I guess my question is, does anybody know the answer? Let's forget me in particular here. Let's just say PFL as we know it. If all this works out and they were still on my books and all that kind of stuff, is PFL going to take prior to them going on unemployment, or you know, counting it sounded to me like it would be.
This is the one question I had, like, and I'm just looking at, I actually just looked it up on my other screen, that it's 20, you have to work for 26 consecutive weeks.
Right.
And if you laid off,
Right,
and it's construed as laid off, they were terminated, you know.
yeah,
They were terminated, so now they haven't worked, now they have to work 26 consecutive weeks.
yes, yes. All right, well, I'll go with that answer. Thank you
I
very
mean,
much.
I don't, you know, for what it's worth.
Sure,
uh,
sure. Thank you, ladies.
Sure. That's a tough one.
Yeah, and just so I've been on the phone, I mean, like for a week with HR, lawyers, carriers, everybody, providers. And so, yeah, it's interesting how many conflicting stories you get and how unsure a lot of people are, because it's unprecedented. So we're all in it together. Thank you very much.
No problem.
All right. Are there any other questions? Victoria, you have anything else there? Or? No? Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everybody. Again, you know, there was a broad spectrum of issues, broad scope of discussion regarding employees, you know, relationships, bringing people back, looking at hiring new people, just a whole scope of things. But I'd like to thank Sue and Buki and Janelle for being with us today and providing your insights and your information. And I think, Victoria, you shared each of their contact information, right?
Yeah, it's in the chat, but I'm going to follow up in a day or so with an email to everybody who registered with all the contact information, as well as Janelle said she sent me her PowerPoint. Susan, if you could send me that alert that you sent out, I can include all of that in an email that will go out to everybody, and we'll have it too. So if you have questions and don't get the email for whatever reason, just contact Gary or I. I'll throw that up in the chat as well. So that in for our contact information.
Great. Just a reminder too that next week, Tuesday the 16th, same time, 5 o'clock, we'll be having a seminar with boosting sales through social media. And who are presenters for that, Victoria? I know Scott Perry is one of those from Aurora.
We have, who do we have? We have Amy Alexander from Metamorphosis, who has been doing a phenomenal job with social media and putting information out there to keep her clients engaged with her, because she can't have anybody in her studio. We also have Jerry West, who is kind of a social media guru, who's going to share some best practice and tips for companies that aren't real sure about social media to see how they can help boost their sales and what they need to do. And we have one other person, hold on one sec, see if I can get it. I believe Heather from Beulah's too. She's another kind of a case study. They're the ones that have been doing a really good job with it, to kind of share what they've been doing, why they're doing it, and how it's helped their business.
Okay, thank you. Well, again, thanks everybody. Again, Sue, Buki, and Janelle, really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for joining us. You know, I know this was valuable to you. So I hope there are things that you can get out of this. And again, you can reach our presenters if you have any other further questions. Anything else to wrap up? Anybody else have any other questions or comments? Well, thank you very much. Have a great night. It's still time to enjoy the evening, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Okay? Thank you.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great night, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Jeff.
Well done, thanks.